I can't hear you. Sorry. Can you hear me?
That's probably why. Can you hear me now, pal?
I can, and I had a different link in the invite, so I
Yeah.
just
I
yeah, man,
sent you the wrong link, man. That's my guy had set
I
up
do
to
this every time.
not live.
Never.
So I said, no, me and Scott decided we were going live. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I am I'm better than I deserve, if I'm really honest. I always say it like that. I don't mean to be like I'm shameful of myself, but I'm grateful.
Good thing.
Because some shit happened to me when I was in high school and college that, quite frankly, I got lucky. Um, Dude, you know what? I was thinking about having this with you, and I said, Scott interviews all these people, but I'm not sure I really know your full story of how the heck you ended up in this industry. You want to tell the people that follow me, and if you guys aren't following Scott, you should. He does like 30 shows a week, and he's extremely well plugged into this digital ecosphere. How the hell did you end up here, man?
The same way everybody else did. I was trying to make a quick buck. I came as a trader, and I went to school at Penn in the late '90s, and everybody I was in school with, I wanted to be in music, but everyone I was in school with, wanted to be an investment banker or a management consultant, and that was sort of the peak, I think, of investment banking and trading and Wall Street hype. And so everybody went off to Wall Street. I did not, but obviously I caught a bit of the finance bug being in that environment. So I was always at least superficially attached to financial markets, trading, options, Forex. I went through pretty much every iteration. And then honestly, I got lucky.
What did you study in school?
I was anthropology major and a music minor, so not exactly finance, right? I wanted to be Indiana Jones, and then I went and did an archaeological dig in the Middle East, and I was like the only American dude, and they just made me move huge rocks in a wheelbarrow in the desert at like 130 degrees, and I gave up on trying to be Indiana Jones after that. But and then I just got very lucky, to be honest. Perfect timing. I was sort of aging out of my music career, in my late 30s.
Does that mean you were growing up?
Yeah, I got old. And it's like Dazed and Confused. I get older, they stay the same age. Yeah, that was how I felt about DJing. Nobody else that was there was getting any older. It was just me. We were recycling young 20s. And so I got lucky. Actually, in the music community, they were pretty early into crypto and Bitcoin. And so I think being the nature of those kind of people, they're risk takers. They worked at night, so they were all kind of trading during the day. And I got into it it was just perfect timing in late 2016, early 17. I had a daughter. I didn't want to be on the road anymore. And I just started trading, and I happened to catch crypto at that perfect moment, in the cycle where I made a lot of money fast, or at least, a lot of money to me fast. And, so I was there to trade. I became very passionate about it. I alienated all of my huge social media following I already had from music by posting charts with lines all over them. And it wasn't really actually, to be honest, until the market went bearish that I took a really deep dive into what I was trading, realized that most of it was garbage. Bitcoin was important, and sort of like coping and self-justifying the reason I was still here is actually what sent me down the rabbit hole to get me truly orange pilled. And of course, from there, I mean, you know me, right? Once I sort of get into something, this is how I was with music, it's how I was with sports when I was a kid. I'm all in, right? And so I just went fully down the rabbit hole and committed everything to try to educate other people on why this was so important. And it's been a journey, obviously, from there, but that's sort of the origin story.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that when you said, "Hey, you know me," there are a lot of very highly concentrated people in this field that tend to have almost maniacal focus. I don't want to use all these words that people use, these labels, but there is a peculiar personality, at least in this wave of people, that are pretty intense. Now, having said that, I think Bitcoin, I remember having a friend of mine in here 2 years ago, and I started orange peeling them, as you say. And he's walking out my front door. He makes $7 million a year in a business he's got. He said, okay, I'm going to spend 20% of my time. I'm going to diversify and go into crypto. And I literally closed the door, wouldn't let him out of the house. And I said, dude, don't do that.
Too much.
Okay. You do not need, you can't focus 20% of your time on crypto. This is 100% job. It is not an 80 or a 70. It's you're going to blow $7 million, man. And people need to be really careful. This is not a part-time exercise. I don't think you can do this on weekends.
I think it's only a part-time exercise if you just want to buy and hold and dollar cost average into Bitcoin and know that you're, hedged and protecting your future, and you can do that. But if you're going to actually take a meaningful interest and try to participate in this industry, a 24/7, 365 isn't even enough.
Yeah, it's near impossible to keep up. In fact, it's so vast that I don't think anyone can keep up, which really means that, like, it sounds negative, but that is the opportunity, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
It's why you don't even have to compete with anybody. I mean, I was at Wyoming, the symposium thing that Scaramucci puts on, and this is the best show I've ever been to. This was this year, 2 months ago. First off, the maturity of this crowd. They're thinking, the discussions are, hey, what are we building for 2028, and what are we building for 2032, 8 years out? Now, I've never heard that before. Okay, head of Citibank, Bank of America, Franklin Templeton. We're looking at 4 years out. The other comment that was made over and over, somebody asked this question about competition, and he said, we're $1 trillion market moving into a quadrillion dollar industry. There is no competition. Nobody can eat everything or digest everything from this trough. It's not possible, which is fascinating, man. A market that's going to be this big and growing and very little competition, really.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is I think retail focuses on immediate gains and cycle and portfolio today, and whether it's October and what's going to happen in the summer of 2025. And these institutions can't think that way. Even if they wanted to, even if they have traders there, their due diligence process and the way that they move in and out of asset classes and their ability to even risk manage this is a multi-year process. So they have to be thinking next cycle. Even if they want to be extremely active right now, their timeline has to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But it's a completely different market this time. I'm not saying this time is different, but it's being institutionally driven, right? I mean, BlackRock is the largest, asset manager in the world. Larry Fink, you could argue, is more powerful than the president of the United States, and he's on a road show telling people about this asset class. And you can also see his evolution as he does it, right? It's pretty incredible. You watch his first, comments. This is an important investment. It should be a part of everyone's portfolio. We believe that it should be in an ETF. Now, when he talks about it, he talks about global uncertainty, money printing, not trusting your government. I mean, it's like he's fully in this with the rest of us, and it's genuine, and that's going to trickle down from BlackRock to every institution in the world. It's just being bearish right now it's just absurd.
Yeah. I continue to say this is absolutely the best time to buy Bitcoin. That risk adjusted, and also the time that people have to wait now. Like, I was early. I could have walked in 3 months ago. Like 3 months ago would have been like, whoa, this is awesome. I'm coming in right now. Even if you miss 30, 40, my average cost is 40,767. Sometimes people look at me that have been around longer than you have, and they're like, whoa, really, dude? And I'm like, your cost isn't just like 10,000. I don't care if you've been here for like 30 years, dude. No, people didn't add. They stopped adding.
That's right.
And I don't get it, Scott.
Or they sold.
They stopped adding.
We all talk about the luck of being a 2000. First of all, to your point, every person who buys Bitcoin is jealous of the person who bought Bitcoin 2 years ago. Doesn't matter when you bought it. If you bought it in 2014, you hate the 2012 guys. If you bought it in 2012, you're jealous of the 2010 guys, and they're mad at the guys who are like getting it for free on an internet site when they were early promoting Bitcoin, right? So everybody always feels like they're too late to this asset class, no matter when they buy. That's just the way that it feels because you see other people that got it at a lower cost basis. But if you bought it 30,000 or 40,000, if it's at $1 million, it's not going to matter. Right? It's a rounding error at that point. And if you have the low time preference and you're zoomed out, that's the kind of approach I think that you should be taking to Bitcoin. The rest of it, you got to get in and out of largely, right? But Bitcoin, I think that that's the approach. I don't think that you're late at all. And the point I was making earlier, almost everyone I know who bought at $100 or less sold at $1,000 because they couldn't believe they had made a 10x on this nascent thing that was an idea. And I'm not blaming them. Imagine you buy something for $50 that literally everybody's telling you goes to zero, and you make a 20x, you make $1 million, like you're out of here, right? And the rest of them lost it in Mount Gox. So like it's very, very hard to have been one of those early people and to still be holding the Bitcoin that you bought at that point. So even if you bought Bitcoin at 2,000 or 3,000 or 10, the odds that you're still holding that very Bitcoin, I would say, are very, very small. Mark Yusko, he loves to tell a story every time he comes on. He says, how many people do you know own the Amazon IPO still? You've heard him say this?
Yep.
He says Bezos,
4.
his wife, and their parents, 4 of them. Everybody else sold at some point. Do you forget Amazon in, 2000 or 2001 went down 95%, and it was just a bookstore. Nobody could envision what it would become. People just, we're terrible at being patient for something to go parabolic. We always sell too early. That's why you get time-based capitulation. That's why you get sideways and down price action at times like now. But we're equally bad at understanding how parabolic things can go when they fly.
Yeah. The point I was trying to make was that and you've seen some of this, but I think the greatest wealth that will be made in this industry is getting ready to be made. Oh, yeah. This time it's going to be retained. I'm sad to say I'm not sure it's going to be from most of the beginners, the guys that first started. I'm not sure they've learned the lesson. Because I still, I'm one of the most bullish people I know in this space, man. I am so bullish, and people look at me that have been around a long time. They're like, yeah, not so sure. I'm like, dude, this thing, y'all stop buying your story. I mean, I think they have stopped buying their story for some reason. Scott, do you know what I mean? Because this should be the perfect asset class, and it's literally at the perfect time that the world needs it, dude.
Yeah, and so the people that make the money are going to be the ones that somehow maintain that long time frame and zoomed out thinking, and that's going.
It's the long time frame.
Sadly, for better or worse, sadly, that's going to be the institutions, right? So you think about what BlackRock's doing. I hate to keep coming back to them, but you have to talk about BlackRock now when you talk about Bitcoin. Now, if you're an early Bitcoiner and you're buying it as a hedge against the government, you don't love that BlackRock's here, but right, unless you just love that they're going to pump your bags. But the fact is, this is becoming a institutionalized Wall Street asset, for better or for worse. You can argue that that's good or bad. That's not the conversation we're having. Larry Fink knows exactly what's coming, right? He got the ETF approved. If you think that the end game for Bitcoin was ETF approval, then you've never seen what's happened to every asset in history that's gotten an ETF finally approved or that's been institutionalized. We just saw options trading approved on the BlackRock ETF. That should be a much bigger story than it is, first of all, because that gives these institutions the ability to hedge. It gives them the ability to participate with less cash. There's a number of reasons. But what that tells you is that we're seeing the evolution of, okay, now you can buy this spot ETF. You don't have to buy the underlying if you don't want to. I think you should buy the underlying, but you don't have to buy it if you don't want to. Now we're getting options on it. Well, guys, what do you think? Now we're seeing SAB 121, which was vetoed, saying that the biggest banks couldn't custody it. Well, now magically the biggest bank and custodian in the world, BNY Mellon, has gotten approval, has gotten basically an exception from SAB 121 so that they can custody crypto assets. Now, is that right? No, that's wrong, right? They're screwing over our industry. The Caitlin Longs of the world have been screaming about this. They're giving exceptions to the people that they want to control Bitcoin, for better or for worse. But BNY Mellon is the largest custodian on the planet, right? So what does it mean when you have the largest custodians on the planet, the Goldman Sachs, State Streets, BNY Mellons, coming into the space, it means that the next products that are inevitably coming are going to be yield and lending and everything you've seen with every meaningful asset class in the world. It's just going to absolutely explode. Do I think you need to take a loan against your Bitcoin? I can't say if that's right or wrong for you, but is it safer to do that with BNY Mellon than with Celsius? 100%. Right?
Yeah.
It's going to exist. So the point being that everything that's made any other asset class in the past become legitimate and explode, we're at the first starting line, first out of the first inning of that process.
Yeah, and they don't do this if they think it's some bubble gum, guys. Okay, they think this is a $1 trillion opportunity. Institutions don't do this size. Franklin Templeton has been studying this market over 8 years. Like what's interesting to me,
Fidelity's been in since like 2014.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is if this is the entire crypto value chain from mining all the way to Joe Consumer, every major institution has taken now one part of the financial world has gone in and drilled into almost every piece of the value chain now. Okay. Franklin Templeton, you got BNY Mellon now talking custody. Quite frankly, you say it's unfair. I say, hey, that is exactly how this works. Custodia Bank will now get it, but they're going to give it to a major player. They want to safeten up this marketplace. And I have never seen a greater validation of an industry when you see every major player doing this, dude. There isn't anyone except Vanguard that's sitting off to the side. Okay. And nobody cares about them. Nobody cares. You have Deloitte with 2,000 people. Ernst & Young has 400 people. KPMG has a whole monster team. It's not just the banks, dude. It is literally every industry is starting to support Bitcoin and the ancillary activities that go around this industry.
You know, I have to give you credit. I don't know when we did our first interview. Maybe 2 years ago at this point. It's been quite a while.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be much longer than that.
And we had a conversation, and basically the crux of what we discussed was you continually saying there will be adults in the room. We need adults in the room. The suits are coming. And this was long before we even had talk. You know, this was when it was just rejection after rejection after rejection. But you said it. You said it with high conviction that this was what was going to happen. And you actually kind of alluded to the fact that it needed to happen if we were going to end up with those prices that we've talked about, or if it was going to become a true, respected asset class. And I mean, here we are. And we're right in the middle of the process of it. And somehow people are angry that Bitcoin's 60,000. I tell them, we were just 15,000 not that long ago.
2 years from now, this industry is going to be so different, dude. Like the money, the transfer of wealth inside this industry is going to be spectacular. There's going to be a lot of upset people because the old tribey thing that's done. I mean, it's going to be a whisper. And I hope people can mature with this. It may not be the Bitcoin that people read into the white paper, but the Bitcoin that people read into the white paper. It's not the white paper I read, by the way, but I think the slant that people put on it from the anarchist view, which, by the way, I am an anarchist. I hate control. Okay. Like I am.
I know.
I spend a lot of money on private.
Ask Gary why he doesn't fly domestic.
Yeah. You mean commercial? Because I don't want people touching on me, dude. Like I don't like the process, right? I mean, United Airlines just decided that they're gonna, DEI for their pilots is really important. And I'm like, no, I want the best pilot, dude. Including if that's a robot, I want the best pilot. Don't give me somebody that's a female, and that's your number. It's a plane. So yeah, I don't really trust the system. But my point is, the world that the Bitcoiners about just the world that we were living in, the peer-to-peer, away from the government, it was never going to be a big business. That's just the truth. You're not going to have anything over $1 trillion. Now, if you want a $30 trillion industry, we got to include everybody. And in fact, it won't be 30. It'll be 300 trillion if you include everyone. And that now, if Bitcoin is really great, Scott, if it's, solves every problem, it will also solve the cartel problems that everyone complains about, the naughtiness. So Bitcoin's either going to solve a lot of problems and it's perfect, or it will kind of fall in place and have its own little piece in the industry. But I actually have a belief that it's going to be a multi-trillion dollar, hundreds of trillions. Now, what time frame? That's the question. Is it 10 years or 20? But I can absolutely see Bitcoin as a $10 trillion industry in the next 3 to 4 years. That's a 10x from here.
Yeah.
Right. So
And
that's
Bitcoin's
a $500,000
off the
Bitcoin.
I mean, just as an asset, it's 17x off the COVID lows to the highs of the last cycle. People think you're crazy. I saw somebody actually in the comments said you guys lose all credibility when you say $1 million with a clown face. $1 million's not that far. Like if you believe that the government's going to continue to print money, $1 million Bitcoin and $15 bread, neither of those, or $25 bread, neither of those things should surprise you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think people just, maybe they don't understand that. See, my theory is the timing here is so good because I think all other asset classes are at absolute max investment.
Yeah.
Okay. Every rich person on the planet and every company has literally peak consumption. And so I'm looking around going, okay, if that's right, and we don't really have a peak anything other than consumption, peak demand, what is there out there that I can get a hold of? Do I either sell the whole market because we're at peak demand and the whole market's got to go down, or can I buy something that is not at peak demand? And then I run into Bitcoin and go, whoa, less than 1% adoption. There's 2,700 billionaires, 400,000 ultra wealthy, and 62 million millionaires. I don't think any of them have bought Bitcoin in any volume yet, right? Dude, that alone is a monster market. Just those guys, right? Just the ultra wealthy is a market.
But you know what the beauty of that is? They're going to buy it and they're not even going to know that they're buying it because it's going to be indexed into funds by Fidelity and by BlackRock, and it's going to be parts of every ETF. I always laugh. This is a good example. I have friends, or you hear people who say, I hate Elon Musk, right? I would never buy Tesla stock. Or I fundamentally disagree with Mark Zuckerberg. I would never own Meta. Ask them about their 401k, right? Or their IRA, their investment account, and go look at the mutual funds that they've bought. And they're probably 20% exposed to all of the companies they hate because they've been passively investing in funds that, of course, if you're exposed to NASDAQ, you're exposed to Meta, you're exposed to Tesla, for example, right? Whatever it is, you hate it, but you're buying it. So BlackRock's already purchasing Bitcoin for certain ETFs and funds that they have. So are other industries. The minute Larry Fink goes on TV and says, we recommend a 2% allocation to Bitcoin for every single person, and we are putting 2% into every medium and high risk fund that we control, every single person who has exposure to any BlackRock fund will be buying Bitcoin, whether they like it or not. And who buys these funds? Rich people, because those are the only people who are fortunate enough to own assets and to own stocks in the first place. So even if they hate it, they're going to end up exposed to it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think they might end up double exposed to it because
because they'll buy it too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm talking. I think we have, and this is a hard number to get to. Hey, what is the adoption rate among the wealthy? I know everybody wants to talk about the whole world, but I do think right now this window is the wealthy are going to drive this window. And then we get down to the consumer level. The whole peer-to-peer white paper, we could be 2 to 5 years off of that, but I think you're going to see money move into this market. I have a lot of TradFi friends, and like when I see my brother, it's literally only taken me, not a lot of time to get Grant around. And a year ago, he was so poo, not because of Bitcoin, but because of the messaging in Bitcoin. And the messaging has been horrific, man.
It's a scam. It's destroying the environment. It's only used by terrorists. It's for drug dealers. The Elizabeth Warren playbook. Yeah.
The messaging I'm talking about comes from inside the industry. It's not, my brother's not listening to Warren. My brother's going on Spaces or something, hears you talk about something or me talk about something, and then some other guy goes, hey, if you don't hide all of that with a seed phrase in your backyard, you're going to get it all stolen. Well, Grant immediately like, oh, fuck, I'm out.
Yeah.
Grant wants to buy $150 million worth of Bitcoin. Like, he's not going to, once they're in, see, this is what happened to Larry. I don't know anybody that plays with this stuff and then doesn't end up going deep. Once you start moving Bitcoin around, you're like, fuck, this is the most unbelievable everything that I've ever seen. It just moves so fast, man. And by moving fast, I can send you money so rapidly without any friction whatsoever. Now, I've really used this stuff. I bought Node 40 on a Saturday afternoon with crypto.
It's crazy.
When Celsius was breaking it. Now, the CEO at the company on a Saturday afternoon, he was like, hey, I got all this money from 5 banks and I can use it right now. Right? That was for me when I saw that, and I was pushed by the Celsius thing. So I'm like, shit, I'm going to get clocked here. This crypto thing, Saturday 2:30, I owe $4 million to Node 40. I start moving, and I'm like, that took me 7 minutes, man. It was no failures.
You didn't have to call a guy. You didn't have to get somebody to check off on it. It's unbelievable.
One deal, no wire. Perry was able to use it within 2 minutes on a Saturday afternoon. This is a very powerful collateral. Okay. But you have to do it because otherwise it's theoretical. And that's why I say Bitcoin is very easy to understand. It is the old world that you have to re-understand and realize you have no clue how money's made or your role in the industry unless you really go through this exercise. It's unlearning the old world.
Yeah, it's like, it's like the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours. I don't know that you necessarily need 10,000 hours to understand Bitcoin, but you have to do the work. Saylor says it all the time. Everybody else does. You're not going to get it until you mess with it. You have to go through that being scared to hit the transaction and sweating your ass off when you're waiting to see if it arrived and you don't know if it did and how that works, and hiding your seed phrases and improving your security. It's a very terrifying process to get there. But to your point, once you feel free, you get it and you never go back. Like outside of Taleb, obviously, who famously sort of he wrote the forward in the Bitcoin Standard, and he wrote, Anti-Fragile and Black Swan and all these incredible books. He's the only person I've ever seen publicly go backwards on Bitcoin, who was like a hardcore Bitcoiner, and then one day was like, nah, I don't like this. Everybody else, you get orange pilled and you stay here and you only go further down.
Yeah, I was on the phone last night with not on the phone, on one of these Spaces with a well-known actor who got burned on Voyager, and he's like, I'm out. And it's like, I want to actually take the guy aside and go, bro, your problem wasn't Bitcoin. Problem was Voyager. You literally just saying no to Bitcoin. This wasn't about Bitcoin. This was a Voyager problem. Speaking of that, that might be a good segue since we got about a half an hour left if you got time.
Yeah.
You've been around so long. Why don't we walk the audience? I like to talk, people start liking me and they think I'm rich and famous and successful. I'm like, whoa, I've made a lot of mistakes, man. And I think, it's good for people to know, hey, I made a mistake and you don't need to repeat that. What are some of the monster mistakes projects, dude, you've done in this
I've
industry?
made them all, and not that long ago. You mentioned Voyager. I'm one of their top 20 creditors, right? I mean,
But the mistake part, where did it start? See,
so listen, I was out there saying custody your own assets, secure your assets, self custody, be your own bank, like all of it. And I met those guys in 2019, Voyager, to tell the story at World CryptoCon with Charlie Shrem. And it was the time there was no yield. It was simply a exchange. It was actually an exchange aggregator. So it was like a broker that found you the best price and liquidity from 20 multiple exchanges. But so I was brand new effectively to the space, being an influencer, whatever you want to call it. I had a new podcast, and I convinced them to sponsor my podcast when it launched, which was March of 2020, a week before COVID.
This is Voyager.
Yeah, okay. Voyager. I met Steve, like we became friends, and I used it to trade. There was no yield product, but as like they were my sponsor, and we had Blockworks was kind of the third party in between that had brokered the deal. We're talking about like $3,000 a month, by the way, nothing, right? And I've paid for that in millions, right? Making that, I made like $48,000, and it cost me many millions of dollars. But that's neither here nor there, right? So, and eventually, in the like ad reads, I started seeing, hey, we're offering yield, and like whatever. And I knew them. I thought Steve, he was coming over from E-Trade, smartest guy in the industry. Told me how they were making the yield. It was simply lending the coins that they had. Didn't say it was unsecured loans of $700 million to Three Arrows Capital. And I bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And like at no real incentive to myself, like my dad, my brother, a lot of my friends were on there. Luckily, most of them were just in USDC and kind of got out of it pretty clear. But I bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And so I was talking about huge mistakes. And listen, this is in hindsight. Like I can't, fault myself for what I believed at the time, knowing what I know now. But I used it as my bank account. Right. It was a yield bearing bank account in a world where you couldn't get yield. And no matter how many times I asked them, if it was safe, if it was, yeah. So the next biggest mistake in the Voyager process that I've probably never told anyone about is that it was just an app on a phone.
Exclusives coming in right here.
Yeah, it was just an app on a phone, right? It didn't have there was no desktop. And I said, guys, like you're telling me to like use this and millions of dollars. If I get kidnapped, it's over for me, right? Like I don't have crypto on my phone. Like you can kidnap me right now, you're getting jack shit, right? And so
you're like me.
And so what they did for me was they removed my ability to withdraw crypto from my account. So they said it'll just go only to your bank account, which is KYC through you. Mind you, this is like 2020, late 2020. This is not when there was any fear. This is not July 2022 when they were going bankrupt. But so actually at the beginning of 2022, when we started to see some whispers and things about Celsius, I wasn't working with these companies really anymore to any great degree. And I was like, guys, can you just turn my crypto like withdrawals back on? This is maybe 3 months before the bankruptcy, something like that. Crickets. Never heard from Steve Ehrlich again. Never heard from any of them. And so I did not have the ability. I was the only person in the world who could not withdraw their crypto from Voyager because they had turned it off, and I needed somebody at the company to go turn it back on. So a month and a half or so before I was like, fuck it. Like, I don't even know if this platform is good, bad. I think it's still good, but I just can't be exposed to this risk. So I went and I said, I'm going to sell all this Bitcoin, take the huge tax hit, and I'm just going to withdraw to my bank account. And I went in, and my withdrawal limit had been reduced to $10,000. So I had no way out, right? And so listen, like I had the issue of they were a sponsor. I trusted them. I had my money there, and I wasn't diligent enough to get my money off, and got absolutely crushed. So listen, and I was a guy, like I said, who believed in self-custody. Don't put all your coins. It wasn't everything, obviously, right? But it's enough to hurt, especially at current prices, right? Because you might remember that whatever was paid back, which I also didn't get all of it back for various reasons, but was paid back at $17,000 Bitcoin or whatever it was, not at $65,000 Bitcoin. So I've made those mistakes. As far as other huge mistakes, obviously, like being way too trusting or believing or bullish on the rest of the asset class. And I think that this is a process that people go through as well, right? So, like, I seriously, I told you I got in through trading. So, like, my first love, believe it or not, was Dogecoin when we were trading it for like fractions of Bitcoin. Not, you couldn't even talk about it in cents. Like, a penny was not even a possibility. I was flipping all this stuff, but the problem was I was at the time a guy with 30,000 Twitter followers from music. I could talk about whatever the hell I wanted. And I was trading and people started to love me for my trades. The problem is the more people that start following you when you share something you're actually trading, then it starts moving the market. So I had to stop
Yeah.
doing that. um, and my biggest crime at that point was like, it was, May 2021 and I was in everything. And I thought we were, Bitcoin was breaking 65. We were going to a million right now and everything was going to go up. And I was way too bullish at the top, and I was bullish at the top publicly. Right. So you kind of learn what you can and can't do as your account gets bigger and bigger. You don't realize that once you're at 100,000, you can't talk about the same stuff you could at 30. You certainly at 500,000 can't talk about the same stuff you could at 100. And when you get to 1 million people, all you can do is like tell people inspirational quotes and to like cold plunge and make sure to exercise 3 times a week, because you just want to like be the most vanilla person ever so that you don't spook the market or move anyone's opinion on financial advice. And it brings you back to Bitcoin in the end, right? I have no problem telling people to buy Bitcoin, right? So
yeah, I think we were on the airplane together going to Nashville, and somebody said, "Hey, do you think the Nashville event's gonna move the Bitcoin price?" And I just looked at the guy and went, "Fuck, I hope that's over. I hope it's over. That one guy like you should be able to say whatever you want and never move this market. Like until this market gets, this was why the big Wall Street guys were sitting around waiting for you guys to fuck up. And I think that's what happened. I think once FTX got taken down, I became very positive. I started moving in. I'm like, oh, the sheriff's in town. His name's Gensler. Whether you like him or not, they're cleaning house. And they have gone through there and just cleaned house. And look what happened. They just came through here and took everything. And they're going to build a.
I wish they had protected us from it in the first place, but you're definitely right that in that regard, and he overshot. So I think that will course correct. Listen, I mean, not to get political, you obviously do, but you were on Spaces with me this morning.
Oh, we're going to get political. We're going
to but we had John Reed Stark on, right?
Yeah.
I had John Reed Stark, who's an ex-chief at the SEC, top 5 guy at the SEC for
he's a good guy.
decades. He hates crypto, by the way, but he's also like best childhood friends with Scaramucci, so the conversations there are hilarious. But
I love Anthony, but man, it's starting to get hard now. It's getting hard at this point.
Regardless, but this is the thing. Regardless of your political position, there are objective truths that you can discuss about the future of this industry, right? Whether you like Gensler, hate him, whatever it is, there's one thing I can guarantee you. If Donald Trump is launching his 4th or 5th NFT project, and he's launching World Liberty Financial, which is by Gary Gensler's definition, clearly an unregistered security in the United States and a DeFi platform that would not be available to American citizens. You can damn well bet that Donald Trump's going to make sure those things aren't illegal if he's elected president. Even if you have the worst view of him in his own self-interest, there's literally no way that we're going to be talking about altcoins being unregistered securities or what people can or cannot do in the United States if he's elected. So even if you hate him, that is an objective truth, right, about what will happen. We do not know for a fact what the Harris administration would look like in crypto, but you have to default to more of the same. Maybe they'll change. Like, even if you want to give them the greatest benefit of the doubt, but you can't, there's no objective truths about what that administration will look like for this industry. And to be quite frank, regardless of like political opinion, you have to share this. I said it on Spaces, like, as an American citizen, I should be able to buy shit that I like. Like, and right now I could get in trouble for buying something and telling you I bought it because I have a social media presence. Right?
Yeah. Well,
I should be able to have like sponsors, and I should be able to do all the things that all of my friends over in, Dubai are doing in this market. Not the things that are harmful, obviously, but like I should be able to participate. I should be able to trade with leverage if I want. I don't want to, by the way. I should be able to buy whatever I want. I should be able to participate in DeFi if I want, and I can't, right? And every time I talk to my lawyer, like, you have a show. I'm like, hey, to my lawyers, I'm like, hey, what do you think of like this sponsor? I think this is really cool. They're like, do they have a token? Nope, don't take that money. You know, like I'm not going to talk about the token, but okay, just to be safe, you know, like, and it's a really wild to be an American here. So 4 more years of that for anyone who's here is a pretty scary proposition. Do I love that Trump's launching a DeFi thing 3 weeks before the election? No, I don't think it's the best like political move necessarily. I hope it works out and it's amazing. I wish he would do it like on November 10th. But
Me too. Me too.
Right. Listen, while his supporters are saying that, this is not like an anti-Trump comment. I'm just saying it's awkward timing because
it's very awkward. Okay. I mean, I can't tell you how many phone calls I made that night. When I heard that, I'm like, I was on the phone with Bobek, and nobody knows anything. So look, he's a peculiar cat. He's a massive disruptor. He's a catalyst. So far, he's been right on a lot of things. So I'm going to give him he has the right to do what he wants. I'm not going to start acting like a draconian government and tell him what he can and can't do. I think it's going to be stupid, but
that's the point. They're
he's
telling
running
us
for
what
president of the United States. Yeah, but you know what, Scott? Maybe he knows some shit. Maybe these people are going so crazy. You and I might like Liberty Coin on November the 15th.
Dude, like I said, I'm just trying to share objective truths and an opinion about like timing, but I have no view on whether dude, I don't know if anything I read. I don't know if anything I read, see, or hear is true. It's so sad. Like people are sending me videos of Iranian missiles hitting Israel and Israel saying that no missiles hit and that the Iron Dome, and those could be literally videos from 10 years ago.
That's
and
right.
I have no idea. There's no way I can vet that. I don't know. So I try to focus on the things that I do know. And I do know that Trump's not going to pass a bunch of laws that make what he's doing illegal. Right? Yeah. But I do not know if it's going to be a scam or it's not going to be a scam or if it's the future of finance. So what I'm going to do is wait till it launches and have an opinion when I see how it does, right? And maybe you're right. Maybe it's going to be the future of finance and maybe we're going to really need it. I have no idea.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I own Bitcoin. I don't need to go buy a secondary offering from anybody, any movie star, any president. I wish he'd be president and stop war. We don't need a guy launching coins, but I agree with you. In fact, I'd go further to say that as a guy that's been running businesses in this country, like real operating businesses, in the last 8 years, the fear of getting letters from, once you get to $50, $100 million a year in revenue, you become a target for taxation. The amount of money I have spent in the last 4 years over legal fees, over stuff that you're like, dude, why aren't you focused on FTX? You're looking at me. And then they come to you and they go, hey, we want you to pay us $100,000. And you're like, you dragged me through the fucking dirt for 3 years over $100,000.
Right. How much did you spend to pay them that $100,000?
$7.5 million. The thing is, so did the government. The government spent probably $2 million. Like,
guess what? That means you also spent more money because you're the one who you are the government.
And so did you, dude.
That's my money.
While Bankman-Fried was actually stealing from consumers. Like, I've never even dealt with a consumer, right? So my only point is, and I'm a big boy, it's cool. This country, under the administrations that we have been having for the last 8 years, is a police authority. You can't run businesses with police authorities. There's no innovation. I'm scared, dude. I'm 66 years old, got a shitload of money. I'm not going to play in this game if you're going to threaten me all the time. I'll fucking leave. Okay, now you have all this old money leaving. Well, no, fuck, I'll just live on a sailboat. I want to work, but I don't want to work, pay my taxes, and then constantly worry, hey, am I going to get snapped because I said something online that somebody doesn't like against Visa, because I think the regulators are actually supporting monopolies. I'll say it. They are supporting monopolies. Visa and MasterCard are a complex duopoly. They own 72% of all the plastic in the United States. And there's all this fraud that's going on. You have consumers buying shit they should not be buying. They're taking on debt that's 23%, and Visa and MasterCard absolutely know. And every retailer knows it, and they don't care. They keep sticking their beak in. I mean, I see consumers get bills for $15 from the bank for a Netflix transaction that they know is going to, their bank is going to have cash tomorrow, but they get Netflix today for a $15 overdraft charge. That is a 200% tax. And it's just heinous, $7 trillion in fees. This is why I got interested in Bitcoin in the first place. Like, wow, there's a lot of gaps to fill in the old financial world. And I think that's going to happen. I do believe that Bitcoin is going to take more and more and more of big gaps. It's going to be like mercury. It's just going to flow to where it ain't going to happen in NFTs on real estate, but it could happen on NFTs on crude oil, okay, on equities, on bonds, and that's why Larry Fink's here. That's why I bought Node 40, because I'm like, this isn't a Node 40 is not a tax deal, dude. We're going to digitize the planet. And nobody knows how to measure all this stuff. I think that's fascinating when you put it in that framework, right? We become I ran through some math today on a guy making $72,000. I don't think it's possible for somebody making $72,000 to invest in Bitcoin.
I doubt it's impossible for them to live soon.
Exactly, right? Like by the time you look at what all your costs are, it's like, oh my God, man. Then you get to 120. I think about 125, you might be able to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin a month.
Maybe.
Right?
Maybe. Depends on what the tax rate is after the next presidential election.
But when you run through that math, like if you go through it, it's really a fascinating exercise, because when you go through it, you realize, hey, nobody can afford Netflix, Costco, Prime, X. Like, if you're only making 120, I don't know why you have any of these supplementary things. I don't know why you ever go to Starbucks, why you would have more than one car, and your car should be probably 20 years old. Why you would pay $200 for insurance on a car, $2,400 a year, and you only make 72 to 120. I think you're going to have people jumping out of windows before this is over, man.
I don't disagree. And what I hear when you talk about this is it's going to take a long time for that disruption to happen. And people once again need to zoom out, because the appeal of Bitcoin has always been the disruption. But when you think about what and who Bitcoin disrupts, you're talking about the largest incumbent companies and institutions on the planet. Visa, MasterCard, Goldman Sachs, banks. I mean, literally the Fed, right? So anyone who's ever charged a transaction for you to move any sort of value is at risk if Bitcoin proliferates.
Exactly. Anyone.
So that's not going to be overnight, guys, right? So stop thinking about if Bitcoin's 61,000 or 59,000 today. It's irrelevant. I love Dave Weisberger. I have him on my Macro Monday show, and he always says, repeat after me, Bitcoin is an option on its future adoption, right? You're buying it based on the potential of what it could be in the future. So saying it hasn't acted as an inflation hedge or it hasn't been a flight to safety so far doesn't matter, because it makes sense that it will be in the future. And that's the idea you're buying. And that's why the opportunity exists, as you've said. And that's why we're still early. And that's why all these people are getting in now, when, as you said, at a risk-adjusted basis, now you don't have to worry about it going to zero. Institutions can come in right now and not have egg on their face or worry about losing everything. Now is the time that we're at the starting line of the meaningful adoption, where all of these theoretical narratives and use cases we've talked about can come to fruition.
Yeah. It used to be, okay, we're 40,000, it can go to zero. It's at 60,000. I agree with you, dude. I don't think it can go to anything below 30. not with these kind of buyers. Like we've never had people like my brother go, yeah, I think I want to buy 150 million when I get in. They're not going to buy a dollar's worth. They're not going to buy $10,000 worth. They're going to, a billionaire friend of mine, his first purchase was 120. Like that was his first whack, man. He's like, oh, I like this shit. Well, $120 million, man. This is the way these people are going to operate. And they want to know that all these tools are here. All these big players coming in are making people like my brother much more comfortable. Whereas I kind of like the noise because I'm like, oh shit. It's kind of like trying to buy a house. I always go see the houses when I'm trying to buy one that look really bad in the magazines. Yeah. It's a really expensive house, but the fucking ad's just horrible. It's like, okay, let me go to that one because no one's going to come see this house, or it's grossly overpriced. And then you can do things with it. Let's talk about you got kids. You can no longer be the wild party raver DJer.
I can try.
I've been out with you. I can assure you, Gary goes home before Scott and Emmy. In fact, I have been known.
Scott goes home before Emmy, by the way. Yeah, it's whatever.
You hit me a note one night. I guess you escaped, huh? I said, "Oh yeah, I definitely got."
You were gone. You're a ghost, man. When you want out, you're gone. That's the
well, I just saw where it was going. I'm like, I don't think I have any business here. I mean, it wasn't that it was bad. It was just getting loud. Yeah. Where was I headed? Oh, so you got kids, you got a wife, you've got a future, you're a young man and you're probably mid-30s. Where do you see Bitcoin going?
You know, I'm 47 now, guys.
Thank you. I'm always stroking it, okay? Where does Bitcoin, how long are you going to hold on to Bitcoin? And does this really, like, when you're 45-ish years old, how do you look at this for 20 years now?
I just, listen, so it's an interesting sort of bipolarity I have, because you and I were content creators in this space, right? So we have to talk about it on a day-to-day basis. And so it's funny, like we'll all do shows that are like Bitcoin price today, like October, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? And it's funny because it's not really exciting to say, hey guys, just buy Bitcoin and call me in 20 years. So it doesn't make for very good content or getting people to watch your show. So that you have to have the two sides, which is like, let's talk about everything that's happening right now. And then the other side is that nothing that's happening right now matters at all. Right. And so my personal view is, listen, I lost enough of it through the contagion of the last cycle that I certainly have no intention of selling. I want more, not less. And I can't imagine, unless something fundamentally changes that I don't foresee yet, a 51% attack from a state for, unless something fundamentally changes with Bitcoin or in some way.
Do you ever even think about that as an attack vector? Really?
No. I don't really. I mean, listen, I don't. I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying. I said something unforeseen, like that I just don't understand yet, or I haven't done the work on. But if Bitcoin remains even a fraction of what I believe it can be, I don't see how you don't hand this down to your kids. But more importantly, I don't see how you don't like beat that into them for 50 years before you hand it down to them, so that they're not the kids that just sell and go, buy drugs or something. But it's a generational asset. It's a multi-generational asset. And I would rather in the future be the one. Maybe I haven't learned my lesson. I never took a loan against my Bitcoin, by the way. I had my money on Voyager, but I never used
you will, by the way.
But yes, I was just going to say, like, if I would take a loan against my house, I will take a loan against that Bitcoin and never sell it, right? So I think that, and by the way, that's, guys, for those who don't know, I mean, that's what rich people do, right? You're never supposed to sell anything and take the tax hit. You just take loans against everything and put it back to work, and the loan becomes effectively free with time. Long story, Gary could explain it to you sometime. But yes, I will be taking loans probably when rates are nice and low against that Bitcoin from somebody trusted, and I'll pay that back and never sell it. I have no intention of ever selling Bitcoin.
If you could collateralize your Bitcoin someplace where, okay, look, I know this is going to be okay, what would you be willing to pay today for that money? Let's say you got $10,000 in Bitcoin, or let's say you got one Bitcoin that's worth $60,000 a day. Somebody gives you a loan for $30,000 on the Bitcoin. They've got to hold it for a while. What would you be willing to pay for that interest?
I can tell you what people are willing to pay for it. It's over 10%.
Yeah, I don't think that
I
market's
would think
there yet. I don't.
no, but I know. I mean, people are doing it, but it's small, right? But I would say, yeah, I would say that I would. That's a tough question, man. At this point in the cycle, with my belief in that we're ramping up, I would probably play a pretty high rate because I think that Bitcoin. I would just. The thing is, I would probably just buy more Bitcoin. Right? I would do the Michael Saylor playbook, take a loan, and then buy more Bitcoin, and assume that the appreciation on that Bitcoin is going to pay for the loan. But I would never do that if I didn't have the money on the side if I was wrong, right? But yeah, I think you have someone in the comments actually saying 50% loan to value is too low, 75% at 8%, maybe something like that. I mean, what's your answer? I've never really thought about it, but yeah, I think I would pay probably up to like 10%.
Well, I think one issue is one. I think they are charging more for that, but I don't think there's any volume at all. And
Yeah.
it's like they're smalls. They're
Small.
100 grand. Oh, okay. Well, that's not the market I'm talking about. That guy has a problem. He wants to buy his car and he's willing to pay 15%. I've heard 15%. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I definitely well over 10%.
I will loan personally. I'll loan at 13, 14, 15. I mean, if people want to do that, like you'll destroy my name if you don't get paid, right? But the 50, like Randy Emerson saying here, 50% loan to value is too low. Like for me, I don't really care what the loan to value is. I care what my rate is.
Yeah.
Okay, give me the 50%, but I need to be at 5. I'd borrow that all day long at 5 and 6%, dude. If I can borrow large volumes of money at 6%, I can make money anywhere at 6%. Question is going to be, can I pay the monthly interest? How much do I need? But when this market allows me to lean into it and leverage into expand, first off, two things are happening for me. I'm now looking for banks. Like I've reached out to Cantor. If you guys are hearing this, call me. I lost Howard's email address. I'm calling other people saying, hey, I have a bunch of banking consolidated with one place. I want to move it to a crypto bank. I want to move it all, dude. I want to move the house, the loans, the equities.
Yeah, just when you can bundle everything, you get. I mean, it's just
totally, dude. Like my Bitcoin position's still smaller than my whole book. And to think, whoa, Bitcoin's the tail and it's starting to wag the dog. This is happening now. Okay, I'm seeing the largest accounting firms in the world call me and say, hey, look, we have these 10 customers, and they're the most powerful customers in our whole book, but we can't charge them $200,000, $300,000 to do their crypto taxes. Can you help us? Yeah. They send over the portfolio. This is a really interesting little sign in the road. I look for all these little messages in the road as you're going through these markets and they're evolving. I look at the guy's book and I'm like, this guy's got $250,000 in Bitcoin. Why did you give me a small customer of yours? And they're like, no, that's our biggest customer in the world. And I'm like, huh? And then it dawned on me, oh my God, it's a $4 billion family. And their first whack is 250,000 in Bitcoin. And this top firm can't do it.
It's crazy.
And the fucking family's like, hey, fix my 250,000. This is a huge problem. When people like me, I mean, I've had 3 wives, 15 lawyers in my lifetime, 13 surgeons, 1 accounting firm. Now, why do I share that? People don't get rid of their accounting firms. It's very, very sticky. It's really hard to migrate. This next move, dude, it's about half of my wealth now. It's in Bitcoin. This next move, I will move it to a digital player.
Yeah.
And it'll never move again. It'll never move again, especially if BNY Mellon comes in here, dude. If BNY comes in here,
that's it.
It's game over, man.
I mean, SAB 121 stopped them in the first place when they wanted to come in. So they're coming.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I just think the timing for people, and this would be financial advice to me. If you're looking for a career, dude, this industry is so cool to
Um,
come into.
and there's
Okay,
so
you don't
many,
have
there's
to
so much
buy
opportunity.
Bitcoin. This industry doesn't require a college education. You can learn enough in 25 hours, right? I mean, you and I should just start a school for people to come in. But I'm sure there are some schools you can, but this is, there's nobody even here yet. And the people that are here, they're some of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah,
Never in my life. I've been in 5 industries. I have never met so many cool, smart people.
it's unbelievable. Yeah, it really is.
Um, so where's Bitcoin going to be in 2 years, buddy? I need a number.
I would put it in the mid 200s.
Mid
Well,
200s
no,
makes
in
it.
2 years from now, we might be down. But I think in 2025, end of 2025, I would be looking for mid. Listen, at least 150. I could see 230, something like that.
So
And
two,
then
two
and then two
years.
years from now, we'll be like, why is it 85?
Yeah, but let's talk about market cap. We're at 1.2 trillion ish. 2 years from now, can you see Bitcoin below a $1.2 trillion industry? I cannot.
No, I can't.
See, I
I don't.
can't see this number that, like 57, dude. I'm still a buyer at 57. If something happens, a war, a nuclear, or some idiot shoots somebody else, I can see buying at 57 or 56. I don't think I'm going to see any of these numbers again.
No, I mean I agree, but strong opinions loosely held. I've been surprised, very surprised before at what can happen in this market, but I do agree. Well, listen, I mean, we're at what 1/13th of gold. I mean, even if we become 25% of gold, we're starting to talk about some big numbers, right? So, and I don't see how that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I put us at $3 trillion market cap in 18 months.
Yeah,
That's triple from here.
yeah. I was gonna say, so we're sitting at 170, 180. Pretty happy there. That's right, and that's right in the ballpark of where I'd be thinking.
It's not going to freak anybody out. I mean, these 600s and like it's like, hey, we don't need 600 grand. Okay, we'll get there, but do you really need that? I mean, I think the return this year has been spectacular. If you had like I was picking it up at 30 and 27, I didn't buy the lows. I was terrified, man, and I was out of cash. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
all these people that pick up the lows, I'm like, you guys must sit on a lot of cash all the time, just waiting for a
oh,
squirrel.
it's the Warren Buffett school of buying Bitcoin. Yeah, yeah, somehow a cash hoard like Scrooge McDuck. Yeah, I don't see that. I bought a little at the lows, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was able to back up the truck, like you said.
What do you think the most spectacular token is going to be this year? What it's spectacular in terms of return, and then we'll go
Outside
to
of
which one do
Bitcoin,
you think is going to be the gross underperformer?
grossly underperforming. Okay,
Under
so
and
listen,
over.
I'm gonna go fully contrarian. I think that not that'll be number one, but I think Ethereum is going to wildly surprise people to the upside because it's been the gross underperformer so far, and I just believe that things mean revert. And when you have Larry Fink tokenizing treasuries on Ethereum, you should probably pay attention to Ethereum. Regardless of the narratives, and I love when people start saying something's dead and it's over and it's not going to happen because come on. So I think that Ethereum, even though it's large, will probably outperform for this cycle, but then it will underperform when things correct. Of course,
Have you
right?
have you made that bet?
Yeah, I own a lot of Ethereum. Yeah, I would never tell you something that if I didn't own it because it's just stupid. But
Yeah.
and so like I think that Solana will probably continue to perform well. Um, I think that a lot of the very
You
larger
think
coins.
Ethereum outperforms Solana?
That's tough from here. I would almost yes. I think so. Yes, I could be wrong. By the way, this one
Really?
I have low conviction on this one, but
Dude, I
I
took
think
the
it's
$100 bet with Mark Yusko and Jason Williams. The deal is, though, whoever loses has to fly to North Carolina or Florida and hand the money to them.
that's just that's
So that's a
$100 to go to
$50,000,
a fun dinner.
$100,000
Yeah.
fucking loss for me.
Well, what was the bet? Who took which side of
Uh,
what?
well, Williams said, look, Solana's going to way outperform BTC this year.
And he's deep in the
And I
meme
said,
space.
I'll take the $100 bet. We were online, I was throwing some smack around. And then Yusko shows up. Yo, Gary, you're going to fucking die on that bet. I said, I guess you want some too. Yeah, I'll take some too. So I basically now get one trip for two people to pay two people. I'm sure I'm going to lose. But
yeah, it also like it depends on the end date, and like the end of the cycle is very arbitrary. Because like I said, like Ethereum, if you remember, Bitcoin kind of topped. I guess it was the end of 21, or I can't even remember the cycles anymore. And then Ethereum went on a wild run, but it was only for a month. And if you didn't catch it and sell at the top, like I said, then it underperforms all the way down. So it's really, that's the problem is with the altcoins, it's very hard to really outperform Bitcoin because it actually requires trading and timing, right? They're not hold forever assets that are going to outperform, but they have their moments in the bubble. The thing is, my view on Solana was that I was a bit surprised how far and hard it ran, but I wasn't surprised at all that it did run. And honestly, the reason for that is kind of the same mentality I have about Ethereum now, which is that Solana was disproportionately destroyed by the FTX collapse, right? Everybody had the fear of how much Solana FTX owned. It was viewed as, Sam Bankman-Fried's personal bank account was Solana, that it was his token, all these things. So Solana, I mean, it went down to $8. Other things going down 75%. This thing's down 99%, right? And so even if it just survived, the upside mean reversion trade on Solana was, in hindsight, like very easy bet if you didn't think it was going to zero, right? So the fact that it outperformed was almost it just catching up to where it should have been outside of the irrational sort of narratives and the largely celebrated death of the asset. So from here, I think now we have to take a look at it from this view. What's been driving, and this is not a judgment, but what's been driving Solana adoption through the past year? They're doing a lot of interesting things. Fire dancers coming. They have, institutions starting to look at it, but it's a meme coin casino, right? It's cheaper, faster, and it's given people the ability to launch anything they want, have a good time playing. But like the meme coin casino comes in bubbles, right? And I called this, I don't call many things right, but in March, I sent a tweet storm that got me just absolutely like obliterated online, but who cares? When I said this is the top, Bitcoin 74, this is it. People are sending $30 million to anonymous strangers online to get into a Beam coin presale on Solana, and it's rug pulling, and nobody seems to even care. This is it. This is the bubble. It's done. See you in 6 months. I said, see you in fall. Here we are, right? And so I think fundamentally from here, I would rather bet on the thing that Larry Fink is betting on than the thing that like the meme coin degenerates right now are betting on. I could be totally wrong, but I think ETH will outperform Solana in this cycle from here.
Interesting. I would probably take the other side of that, but I do understand your logic.
Right. Yeah. I think that if you look at developer activity, all these things, Ethereum is still dominating. And if you look at where the actual money is and the TVL, Ethereum is still just dominating.
Yeah. See, I look at market caps, right? And I just look at the market cap and go, man, they're bigger than Visa. Ooh, they don't make any money. There's no income streams. You got a 32-year-old and like that kid, like something happens to that kid, that whole company is going to come down. Like, don't try to tell me that it has a bunch of structure in it and redundancy. You can't. And by the way,
there's 100. Yeah, to your initial question, there's 100 tokens you haven't even heard of yet that will outperform Bitcoin in this cycle.
What do you think is going to be the surprise? That's what I'm looking for. Hey, what do you think the surprise? Like I bought some Doge, man.
I was saying there'll be some meme coin that's like a $20 billion market cap by the end of this cycle that doesn't even exist yet, right? And you'll be talking about people buying, Shibtoshi, right? Obviously, we talk about like a guy. He's told me the story, I think, of his Shiba Inu holdings. He's like he bought 10 grand worth. It went to like $1 million value. Then it went down to being worth like $10, and then went to billions. Or $100 or something to billions. I mean, absolutely insane. So there's going to be some frog, dog, cat, rat that we've never heard of right now that pulls a full, Dogecoin from being a fraction of a penny and all of a sudden is like a $10 asset. And people are going to make billions and billions and billions of dollars on it. So I can't tell you what it's going to be, but I'm going to tell you some meme coin's going to do that.
Do you play in that? Do you still play in that world? Not at all.
No,
Don't get
no,
tempted
no.
because you're hearing it all the time, right?
But I'm too bad at it. Like, so the thing is, like, remember we talked about you have to be 24/7, 365. Anytime somebody tells me like this meme coin is going to be big and I buy it, and then I like check back in with them in 72 hours, they're like, dude, it went up 1,000x. I'm like, it's zero. So I missed it. You know, like
Yeah.
it happened, but I'm not tracking something I put like 2 ETH into or whatever, you know. So it's a loser every time unless you're not like heavily participating in that market and you're in there all day, every day. So for me, it's forgettable. I think it's a distraction. I don't think it's necessarily a net positive, but like the libertarian in me says, let the kids have their fun. I don't care. It's not for me, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny thing, you know, when I first came into this world, you guys talked about having fun. I would come in the rooms and, hey, it's fun. I'm like, why are they talking about having fun investing their money? Like, it
Yeah,
shouldn't be that fun,
it's
dude.
fun. It was gambling, you know, like,
Yeah, now
yeah.
now that now that I now that is fun.
I always treated, I was like, when I was trading Doge and it was like, it would go from 15 sats to 180 sats, then come back for 3 months, then do it again. It was this famous Doge cycle. Yeah, and make
Oh,
10,
you
15
used to tell
grand.
me,
It would go
yeah, I used
down.
to
And
hear
yeah,
you
it
about
was
that.
fun as
You're
shit.
like,
And then all of a sudden it's 70 cents. It was you know, and yeah, my wife we were on the plane, I think, and she told you, she was like, hey, Scott, tell Gary how much, you know, if you'd held all your Dogecoin from the beginning, how much it'd be worth. I'm like, oh, $50 million, you know, like
yeah,
something. I sold it
yeah.
a penny. Couldn't believe it got to a penny. No way.
That's amazing, dude. Listen, any closing comments? I appreciate the time you've had. I know that you get a lot of these requests.
This is the stuff I actually enjoy, man. I'll do this with you all day. I mean, listen, I think that it really is important. I've said it 100 times. Gary said it 100 times to zoom out and really take a fundamental look at how much better the situation is now for Bitcoin as an asset class than it ever has been in the past. You know, um, price does not determine value. They're not the same thing. And the value of this asset, if it becomes what it's on a path to become, is exponentially greater than today. And eventually that value or the price will catch up to that value. Right. So I think, you know, fair value of Bitcoin here is well into the six figures. I think we're definitely going to see that, whether in this cycle or the next, and higher. And everybody should just own some of this. You know, it's really not that hard to you know, channel use go again, get off zero, as he often says, and just be patient. You know, I think that it's going to be an exceptional place to be, and we really are just at the starting line. It's going to be amazing to be on this journey with all you guys for the next 10, 20, 50 years, because it's going to blow people's minds.
Yeah, I agree. I think if people just hold on for 4 years, they're going to be apps. Well, in fact, I think 4 months we're going to know. I think 4 months by February we're going to, like, assuming we're not a nuclear holocaust,
Yes.
you know, ravaged, which I don't actually. It is my only concern about my Bitcoin concentration.
Yeah.
It is that it can only go wrong if we continue doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then we're all dead and we're unhappy, or we're Mad Max. Really, I've never had an investment thesis like this. Hey guys, look, follow Scott. This is what I like about Scott. He doesn't say he makes every decision correctly. You know, when you're a public figure like this and you start doing this, and I speak from my own experience, people can be really harsh on you. Nobody said we're perfect. We do, however, have the balls to get up here and at least share with you what we're doing. I like Scott because he's not a bullshit, hey, look, I make every great decision. I mean, he just told you about a number of things that went wrong. And I've made massive amounts of decisions. I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your money. I'm telling you what I'm doing with my money. He's telling you what he's doing with his money. And we're going to share with you our experiences going through that and the rationale. Like he and I were on a call today with a very smart guy. Reed's a very smart guy. Now, I would like to sit down with Reed and go, Reed, why do you hate Bitcoin? This does not make sense to me. Your intellect is bigger than that. All I have to do is look at the people that are coming here. Dude, that's better than the price of Bitcoin. look at the quality of people and companies coming here. Sit down with 5 of them. It will be some of the 5 smartest people you've ever met. Anytime a garden is filled up with fertilizer and water and soil and constantly replenished and supported, these are the biggest firms in the world. There is an industry there. It's going to develop. It never doesn't happen where that industry doesn't develop. And that is why I'm saying the timing right now, it has never been better to come into Bitcoin. You're going to take the absolute least amount of time to see a return. And you're doing all the work on the back of Scott and myself and others that came before you. Just look at the talent that's coming here. That's not even considering the money they come with. They come with a shitload of money. Do you agree with that thesis?
Oh, so much.
You've never seen this type of talent.
Everything you said, 1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I say it is different this time. Like people are saying, hey, it's not different. The price may behave exact. This is most definitely a chapter in. This is the second version of Bitcoin's book. I think the first 15-year book, it's book 1, and this is going to be book 2. What do they call those, epochs or something?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you? That we're just going to have another. This is another evolution of Bitcoin.
I 100% agree. And once again, price does not necessarily have to reflect that, right? The value of what's happening is what you should be focused on, right? And because it will happen.
It will.
Listen. I love the idea of $1 million Bitcoin, but I don't love the idea of $1 million Bitcoin if we're living in Mad Max, as you said, right? So I don't want that tomorrow.
Yeah, me either. Scott, you're awesome, buddy. I'll see you for my we got a Halloween party coming up.
Yeah, I'll see you in a month.
Hey, yeah, also, I'm going to call you on something else. We were talking about advertisers. I have I don't really like the advertisers because the model, but I think you and I may be sharing a buddy.
Amazing.
Just chat with you about that later. Hey, listen, you guys follow Scott. He's awesome. Scott, you want to talk about the shows you do, or does everybody already know about all the shows you do?
I am on YouTube every day at 9, Spaces every day at 10:15. Got a newsletter every morning, and then sprinkled in with the long form podcast that come out on Sundays. That's pretty much it.
You're awesome.
Thank
dude.
you, man. Appreciate you, man. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.